I can't stop changing things about my setup. It's never ending. I know I just did the whole makeover thing with Linus and all that, but I am now upgrading a monitor. I've been thinking about this though for months now, is upgrading this monitor on the left, which is a QD-OLED. The monitor on the right, which I'm keeping, is a WOLED or WOLED display. The way that these monitors are marketed, OLED monitors, most of the time it just says OLED. The average consumer is just gonna see OLED and think, oh, that's the same, like all OLEDs are created equal, but they're really not. QD-OLEDs and WOLEDs each have their distinct properties and characteristics that can make them look very different and also make them behave differently under different lighting scenarios, whether it's dark in the room, whether there's ambient light. And to help us explore all that, we're gonna be using LG's newest WOLED panel. I'm gonna compare it to a competing QD-OLED display that I also have on hand. We're gonna test it in different lighting environments so you can see for yourself up close how they behave, how they look under different lighting conditions, and ultimately decide for yourself whether WOLED is right for you. Also, if the LG monitor looks good enough, then I'll probably swap it out for that one. All right, we're chilling in the dark, mostly a dark room, a little bit of light way back there at the back of the room, but it's not really affecting too much up here. But we have our two monitors set up. On the right, we have the LG WOLED, all right, our GX700AB, I think that's the full model name. And then on the left, we have our QD-OLED. I think because it's a sponsored video, the brand has asked LG's like, I don't think we can legally mention the other brand, but rest assured, it's a very comparable monitor. Both displays are 27 inches, 2560 by 1440. I believe the left one is 360 Hertz versus 280 Hertz on the WOLED. And that is where their similarities end. But actually, they look identical. Very identical. In fact, I can't even really tell the difference between left and right. If this bezel wasn't here in the middle, I would think that this was one monitor we were looking at. It's strikingly similar, the images that both of these monitors are putting out right now. And I would say they look good. They both look great. Contrast is solid. It's not the most colorful scene, but from what I can tell, colors are represented with a fair degree of accuracy. And black levels are on point. That kind of ties in with contrast. So why don't we go ahead and change things up. I'm gonna turn the lights on, these studio lights, to simulate light, whether that be studio lights, ambient lights, lamps, daylight, the sun. And now I can see a difference. Can you? I can see a pretty stark contrast in image quality, particularly black levels and contrast. You can see that the QD-OLED on the left is looking a little milky with its blacks. Its blacks are looking particularly grayish comparatively to the WOLED, which the WOLED seems to have stayed consistent on the right. Yeah, you could definitely tell when the darker scenes come up, like right now. I wouldn't say it's distractingly bad, but if you're looking for it, you're gonna notice it, 100%. But now let's go to, speaking of which, 100% light. Cranking these all the way up. This is, you know, it's noon, 1 p.m. in your sunny ass neighborhood, and you got all the windows open. You're doing a little day gaming. And now, my goodness. Yeah, you can see it's a pretty big difference. My goodness, that's it's more than I was expecting. I mean, maybe because the scene's so dark, but during dimly lit scenes, whether you're gaming, watching movies, you're gonna notice a fat difference. Black levels have gotten even murkier. What's the term? Dirtier? No, I don't wanna say dirtier. That sounds kind of weird. Washed out is the term I'm looking for. Washed out. Whereas the LG WOLED is still going strong. It looks fine. It looks just like it did when all the lights were off. So why is that? What's going on here? Why does the QD-OLED have essentially perfect black levels in a dark room that immediately become milky and gray and washed out in a bright room? Well, it boils down to the design of a QD-OLED display. You know, on a typical QD-OLED, like the one we're using here on the left, you've got your glass substrate on the front, and then behind that is quantum dots, right? It's a QD-OLED, it's named that for a reason. It's got this quantum dot conversion layer behind that, and then behind that are these metallic layers that are highly reflective. And so when light goes through, when it enters that glass panel, it gets scattered. The light gets scattered everywhere, and that diffused light reflects back out. and hits your retinas, creating this gray black level situation that heavily compromises contrast and color for that matter, because if your contrast is terrible and your brightness isn't all that great, then your color is going to suffer as well, naturally. The whole image is cooked. I shouldn't have said cooked, that's a silly word. I'm not that young anymore. The WOLED, on the other hand, is able to maintain image quality regardless of lighting conditions. A, because it doesn't have the same design elements as a QD-OLED, just physically, but also because it has a polarizer which allows it to absorb light rather than scatter it and reflect it. Whereas the QD-OLED can actually use a polarizer. In most cases, a QD-OLED can't use a polarizer because it nerfs the brightness too much, and it also affects color efficiency. It impacts it too greatly for it to be a viable option. And so that's what we get here. Like at this point, gosh, if these are roughly the same price monitor, unless you really need 360 hertz, which I mean 280 gets you pretty darn close. I couldn't tell the difference, honestly, but I can tell the difference with this. I mean, these black, it's crazy. And you know, I realized that it might be kind of difficult to see the difference with your eyes on camera. So I did a little test where I took a piece of dark footage, you know, some dimly lit footage, and I slowly cranked up the ISO on my camera. Because what your eyes may not be able to see, a camera certainly can. And you'll see here, as the ISO goes up, you can see how much better the LG WOLED is handling it, and those black levels than the QD-OLED. The QD-OLED just looks terrible at a certain point. It gets rough pretty quick, and the difference is crazy. I've never seen anyone do this test. I'm sure they have. It just occurred to me like, oh, I wonder if this would do anything. And sure enough, it really shows just what a difference it makes being able to absorb light as opposed to reflecting it back at you. But I want to do one more test before we close this out, which is broad daylight. I want the sun. The lights are a nice representation, but it's not the real deal. I want the real deal. So we're gonna have to wait. It's 10 p.m. right now. Gotta wait for the sun to do a lap, and then we'll see. We'll see if it's better, worse, the same. Who knows? Daylight, people. Okay, so it's daytime again. I've got my handy dandy cat here to help us through. It's bright. It's about 2 p.m. right now, in the middle of the day. And you can see here we got Doom the Dark Ages fired up. You can see we're in this dark cave type room, and the left monitor is pretty much doing the same thing that it was. It's behaving in the same way that it was when we had the studio lights on last night, where you can see that it is quite a bit washed out compared to the WOLED display. Here's how it looks when we apply that same ISO test earlier, and yeah, you can kind of see for yourself. And as we're looking at this demo, something that's more apparent to me now than it was last night is how much the black levels being affected on the QD-OLED are affecting color. I think I mentioned that earlier. So if you take a look at this blue shield on the left side, you can kind of see what it looks like there, but look what happens when I cross over. So for starters, you might notice that it got brighter and that the contrast looks a lot richer. But you may have also noticed that the color is a lot more intensified. It's more vibrant and it looks a lot more accurately represented. You can see that it's actually blue. It's like a deep ocean blue, whereas on the other side, on the QD-OLED, it looks more teal almost, like a light blue, simply due to the fact that the black levels are elevated because of the ambient light in here. Let's see where else we can go here. This red, let's see if this actually does anything. From here, oh yeah, that's way more intense. Look at that. Can you guys see the difference? It's like night and day. And I don't want this to make anyone who owns a QD-OLED panel feel bad. Like, the monitor on the left is great. It's got tons of good reviews, both from tech reviewers and customers. It's just that when you put it next to a high-quality WOLED, like this LG display, it really highlights the biggest Achilles heel of QD-OLEDs, which is that they just don't perform all that well in a bright room. If you're mostly just gaming in the dark, you like it dark. I mean, a lot of gamers do. A lot of gamers game exclusively in the pitch black. If that's you, QD-OLED is perfectly fine. It's going to be more or less comparable in a lot of ways. But if you tend to game in a variety of lighting conditions, or the lighting is not always within your control, then a WOLED panel simply makes more sense, in my opinion. It's what I would recommend to my friends and family, because most of them game in a variety of lighting scenarios.
I think it goes without saying, but in the end, I decided to upgrade my QD-OLED panel for LG's new WOLED display. And now I have two WOLEDs side by side, with equally amazing image quality, whether I'm in a dark room or a bright one. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, have a good one, and I'll see y'all in the next video.